There are moments at camp when nothing particularly exciting is happening. No campfire, no waterfront activities, no flags, no competitions, just another ordinary morning. And yet, those ordinary moments may be where camp reveals itself most clearly. I'm sitting here this morning at Grizz Pavilion, looking out across camp. Scouts are walking by in pairs toward their morning merit badges. A staff member just stopped to answer a younger scout's question. Across the way, I can hear voices drifting from another campsite. Somewhere in the distance, someone is laughing. Nothing remarkable. Everything remarkable. Because this is the rhythm of camp. Welcome to Meet Me at the Grizz, the podcast where we explore the stories, traditions, leadership, and the experiences that make scouting such an enduring movement. I'm Ken Clough. Today, I'm not recording from my office. I'm not sitting behind a microphone in a quiet room. I'm sitting here at Rotary Scout Reservation, right here at Grizz Pavilion. And today, I simply want to share what I'm seeing. Looking beyond the big moments. When you're at camp, we often focus on the highlights: the campfire, the Order of the Arrow night, the climbing tower, shooting sports, earning merit badges. Those are certainly memorable moments, but camp isn't only made up of highlights. It's made up of hundreds of quiet moments woven together throughout the day. Those moments create something that is surprisingly difficult to describe. Camp has its own rhythm, and I don't think we notice it very often because we're usually busy living it. Today, I'd like to slow down for just a little while and simply observe. Walking at camp. One of the first things you notice if you spend enough time sitting in one place at camp is that people are almost always moving. Not rushing, but moving. Scouts walk the trails carrying their merit badge books. A pair of scouts heads towards the waterfront. Another group is making its way towards ecology. Someone forgot something back at the campsite. A commissioner stops to chat with a scoutmaster. Staff members pass each other heading to their program areas. Everyone has somewhere to be, but nobody seems hurried. That's a very different feeling from the world most of us inhabit every day. Think about how we move through our normal lives. We're checking our phones while walking, listening to podcasts while driving, watching traffic lights, checking email, answering text messages, looking at notifications before we've even gotten out of bed. The pace of everyday life has become astonishingly fast. Camp quietly asks something different of us. Walk, notice, talk, look around. The destination matters, but somehow the walk matters too. The Trading Post Porch. One of my favorite places to observe this is the porch of the trading post. At almost any point during the day, you'll find scouts gathered there. Some are buying snacks, some are buying patches, some are waiting for friends, and some are simply sitting. I've watched scouts start conversations with people they've only known for a day or two. I've watched leaders sit down for a few minutes between responsibilities. I've watched someone teach another scout how to play chess. No one scheduled that. No merit badge counselor assigned it. No adult organized it. It simply happened because camp creates spaces where those things can happen. The chessboard sitting on the porch may seem insignificant, but perhaps it isn't. Two scouts sit down. A game begins. Then a conversation. Maybe another scout stops to watch. Maybe someone offers advice. Before long, there are 4 or 5 people gathered around one chessboard. Not because anyone required it, simply because people are present with one another. It's amazing how often camp creates opportunities that don't appear anywhere on the printed schedule. The moments between. The schedule, of course, is important. Breakfast, merit badge sessions, lunch, open program, more merit badge sessions, dinner, evening activities, campfire, and lights out. Every day has structure. But what makes camp memorable often happens between those scheduled moments. It's the walk from the waterfront back to camp. It's sitting on a picnic table waiting for dinner. It's talking while walking back from rifle. It's watching someone finally succeed climbing the tower after several attempts. It's helping another scout figure out how to tie a knot. Those moments usually don't make the photographs. Yet years later, those are often the moments people remember. I've noticed something else while sitting here this week. Adults have their own rhythm too. Scoutmasters are constantly moving. Not frantically, but purposefully. One walks into the camp office to ask a question. Another checks on a scout in a program area. Someone else is talking with a commissioner. Two leaders from different troops stop along the trail and begin talking. Perhaps they met years ago. Perhaps they met yesterday. It almost doesn't matter. Camp has a way of creating conversations. Sometimes they're about advancements. Sometimes they're about equipment. Sometimes they're about families. Sometimes they're about careers. Sometimes they're about life. And unlike many conversations at home, no one seems to be looking down at a phone while talking. That alone increasingly feels rare. Conversations that matter. There is something about being here that changes the quality of conversations. Maybe it's because we're walking instead of sitting across a conference table. Maybe it's because the distractions are fewer. Maybe it's because the trees somehow remind us to slow down. I don't know, but I've had conversations at scout camp that I still remember decades later. Not because they were dramatic, but because someone gave me their full attention. Or perhaps I gave someone mine. That's becoming a precious thing. Learning to pause. As I look out from the Grizz Pavilion this morning, I am struck by how often people simply stop. A scout pauses to read the camp map. Someone waits for a friend. Two scouts sit on a bench for a few minutes before heading to their next class. No one appears uncomfortable with these small pauses. They're simply part of the day. When was the last time most of us simply stood still for 2 minutes? Usually, if we have a spare moment, we instinctively reach for our phones. We check email, social media, news, weather, sports scores, something, anything. We've become uncomfortable with empty moments. Camp quietly returns those moments to us, not by forcing us, but by giving us something better. Nature sets the pace. One of the things I've always appreciated about Scout Camp is that nature isn't the backdrop. Nature is the setting. The wind moving through the trees, birds calling overhead, the smell of pine after an overnight rain, sunlight filtering through the leaves, the sound of boots on gravel, a canoe paddle striking the water. Those aren't background noises. They're part of the experience. And perhaps they've always been. Long before anyone talked about mindfulness or unplugging or digital wellness, scouting simply took young people outside. Not because it was fashionable, because it was believed to be important. Sometimes we overcomplicate that idea. Perhaps it is really as simple as this. When we spend time in nature, we begin paying attention again to one another, to ourselves, and to the world around us. More than a place. As I sit here, another group of scouts just walked past the pavilion. One of them was carrying a fishing pole. Another had a merit badge book tucked under his arm. They were talking about something that made them both laugh. I couldn't hear what they were saying, and somehow, I don't think it matters. because moments like that have been happening at scout camps for more than a century. Different scouts, different conversations, different generations, but the same experience. It's easy to think of camp as simply a place, a collection of campsites, a dining hall, program areas, waterfront, trails through the woods. But camp has always been more than a place. It's an environment that quietly shapes the way we spend our time, how we interact with one another, and perhaps even who we become. For 1 week, life follows a different rhythm, and without realizing it, we begin to follow that rhythm too. What Baden-Powell understood. I sometimes wonder if this is what Baden-Powell understood from the very beginning. When scouting began, camping wasn't simply a change of scenery. It wasn't just a chance to learn outdoor skills. It wasn't only about cooking over an open fire or pitching a tent. Those things matter. They still do, but they were always part of something bigger. When young people are removed from the constant distractions of everyday life and placed together in the outdoors, something begins to happen. They solve problems together. They laugh together. They discover abilities they didn't know they possessed. They learn to depend on one another. They begin to see themselves a little differently. And perhaps most importantly, they begin to notice the world around them. None of these things can be rushed. They happen because camp allows the time for them to happen. That may be one of scouting's greatest strengths. Not that it fills every minute, but that it leaves room for growth. Camp doesn't reject the modern world. Sometimes people hear conversations like this and assume we're saying technology is the problem. I don't think that's true. Technology has made our lives better in countless ways. It keeps us connected. It helps us learn. It allows us to stay in touch with family and friends. It makes many things easier. The goal isn't to escape the modern world. The goal is to remember that we still need moments that move at a human pace. Camp provides that. You don't have to declare a digital detox. You simply become busy living. Walking to the next merit badge, helping prepare a meal, talking with someone on a trail, watching the sunset over the lake, and before long, you realize you haven't thought about your phone for quite a while. Not because someone took it away, but because something more interesting captured your attention. And that's a remarkable thing. The gift of unscheduled time. One of the words we hear a lot today is productivity. We are encouraged to make every minute count, to optimize our schedules, to be more efficient, to always be accomplishing something. Camp quietly pushes back against that way of thinking. Not because camp lacks purpose, quite the opposite. Its purpose is different. Some of the most meaningful moments at camp happen when nothing was planned. A conversation after dinner, a group of scouts skipping rocks, watching the stars after lights out, a leader sitting beside a homesick scout, a staff member encouraging someone who isn't sure they can finish the climb. Those moments don't fit neatly into a schedule. You can't assign them a time slot. You can't guarantee that they'll happen. But camp creates the conditions where they often do. And sometimes those unscheduled moments become the ones that stay with us for years. Why we remember camp. Have you ever noticed how former scouts talk about camp? Ask someone about the merit badges they earned, and they may remember a few. Ask them about camp itself, and suddenly the stories begin. They remember the rainstorm that flooded the campsite, a friend they met from another troop, the first fish they caught, the campfire songs, the walk back from evening flags, the night they stayed awake talking in their tent long after everyone else had gone to sleep. Those stories aren't really about advancement. They're about experience. They're about relationships. They're about moments shared with other people. Perhaps that's why they endure. A rhythm shared across generations. As I sit here watching another camp day unfold, I can't help thinking about all the generations who have walked these same trails. Some came here when uniforms looked different. Some tents were different colors or styles. Some before cell phones. Some before the internet. Some before television. The world outside camp has changed dramatically. Every generation has arrived carrying different experiences, different concerns, and different expectations. And yet, they all walked the same paths. They all gathered around campfires. They all laughed with friends. They all learned something they didn't know before. They all spent time outdoors. They all discovered a little more independence. The rhythm remained. Perhaps that's one of the quietest ways Scouting renews itself. Not because every generation has the same programs, not because every tradition remains unchanged, but because every generation experiences the same essential rhythm. A rhythm built around friendship, discovery, nature, service, and shared experience. Those things continue to matter no matter what century we happen to live in. The quiet work of renewal. Lately, I've been thinking a great deal about what allows Scouting to endure. Organizations change, programs evolve, merit badges come and go, buildings are replaced, technology advances. Those things will always happen. But perhaps the deeper work of renewal happens much more quietly. It happens when a scout teaches another scout, when a leader takes time to listen, when someone discovers that they can do something they never thought possible, when a friendship begins while walking down a wooded trail. Those moments rarely make headlines. They don't appear in annual reports. They aren't measured in any statistics. And yet, they may be the very experiences that inspire someone to return next summer, or to become a leader years later, or to introduce their own children to Scouting someday. Renewal doesn't always happen through dramatic changes. Sometimes it happens through thousands of ordinary moments, faithfully repeated across generations. Closing reflections. As I finish recording this episode, the camp continues moving around me. Another group is heading toward its next activity. A breeze is moving through the trees above the pavilion. Before long, lunch will be served. Then another afternoon of merit badges, waterfront activities, hiking, and conversations. By tonight, there will be another campfire somewhere in camp. Tomorrow, the rhythm will begin again. And perhaps that's what I've come to appreciate most while sitting here this morning. Camp isn't memorable because every moment is exciting. It's memorable because life moves differently here. It reminds us to slow down, to notice, to listen, to spend time with people instead of simply around them, to discover that some of life's most meaningful moments are the ones we never planned. In a world that seems to move faster every year, perhaps Scout Camp offers something increasingly rare, a different rhythm, one that invites us to walk instead of rush, to observe instead of scroll, to talk instead of text, to sit quietly long enough to hear the wind in the trees and the laughter of scouts making memories they won't fully appreciate until many years from now. And maybe, just maybe, that rhythm is one of the reasons Scouting has endured for more than a century. Not because it asks every generation to live in the past, but because it continues to offer every generation the opportunity to experience something timeless. Thank you for joining me here at the Grizz Pavilion. Until next time, wherever your scouting journey takes you, I hope you'll take a moment to slow down, look around, and appreciate the rhythm that surrounds you. I'm Ken Clough, and this has been Meet Me at the Grizz. Thanks for listening.